The following program is being presented to you by a community producer. The statements, views, and opinions expressed are not necessarily those of ALC TV or the City of Avon Lake.
Welcome to Common Sense. Common Sense is a series of shows that feature interviews with interesting people and will help us to know who these folks are, what they do, and what makes sense to them in a clear, concise, and direct way. I'm Rudy Breglia, and today I'll be interviewing Marty Gallagher, and I'm looking down because there's so many things. Volunteer coach, community leader, 2021 Avon Lake Citizen of the Year, job creator, award-winning business owner, CEO of a nationwide corporation based in Avon, and current candidate for Ohio State Representative. Welcome, Marty, and thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Okay. Marty, why don't you start off by giving us some background? Tell us where you were born, where you've lived, that kind of thing.
Well, I was born in St. John's Hospital in Cleveland.
Okay.
Grew up in North Olmsted. After graduating high school, moved to a couple of little cities, then wound up in Avon Lake about 22 years ago.
Okay.
And built my house here and raised my kids.
Okay, all right. Tell us about growing up in a large family.
Well, my mom in the summertime would say, guys, go outside and don't come back till lunch or dinner. And if you didn't get to dinner on time and somebody was hungrier than you, at the end of dinner, you might have gotten half a portion or none at all. So you had to follow those rules. But
you made sure you came in on time.
Yeah, and it is one of the best experiences with having so many siblings and so many things to do, and you could rotate between them, and it was very, very good. And it's great now with my parents as they're older. There's a lot of support for them. Okay,
that's great. Tell us the secret about living the American dream.
Well, it's a lot of hard work. You have to be dedicated, focused. You have to put the time into it, and the reward is, living in a great community, interacting with great people, and living the life that you want to live. Mm-hmm. And that's what it comes down to. What level do you want to live? Is how hard you have to work.
Okay. Where did you develop your sense of dedication to community life? Did you have a role model?
Ironically, it was a Key Club advisor that really got me into it. When we were younger, we always had to volunteer with my parents. We did stuff with them, and had to do it. It was fun. We'd help from cooking Thanksgiving dinners at a community center to pumpkin sales for Key Club, and Boy Scouts with doing food kitchens and so on, raking leaves, all those things as a kid. Are awesome things to reflect back on to get me to where I am today.
Okay. What sports do you coach, and what are the most teams that you've coached in one particular year?
Well, I would say I believe it's two teams I've coached at one time, but I've coached baseball, softball, football, basketball, and soccer.
Okay. Did you ever think of going into professional sports? I mean, with all of that background and being able to play all those sports?
No. I am not talented. I can coach, but I'm not talented. I could run. I was able to run as a kid, but that was about it. And I played softball for about 30 years.
I see. What was your most interesting coaching assignment?
I would say interesting and best is I was coaching soccer, and when I got my roster, they had given me 3 special needs kids on my team. It was the greatest experience in my life, and I said, what do I do? How do I handle this? And the greatest answer was, ask the parents. And I asked the parents, and we had like a 2 or 3 year period where we were almost undefeated with that experience. The team gelled around the kids. It was just it was my most rewarding coaching ever.
Understand. Why do kids like to be in sports?
I think it's part of a competition thing as part of it, but I also think that being part of a team, getting to interact socially, and the exercise, but they don't know it's exercise. It's, when they score a goal,
really.
Yeah, it's an accomplishment, and it's, a reward. People are screaming and yelling and cheering them on.
Uh-huh. What's the most effective approach for coaching kids?
Make them a team first.
Okay.
The skills
All right.
will come later.
Yeah.
That's the most important thing.
Okay. It makes sense. What surprised you about coaching kids? Was there anything that surprised you?
Yeah, and it's rewarding. It's a surprise and rewarding. I've coached kids, and you forget their names. They've grown up into adults, and all of a sudden they'll come up to you and say, "Hi, coach," and they remember you more than you remember them. But there are some that do stand out. Most of them have their attributes, but that was the biggest thing that surprised me.
Okay. What did you do for the Avon Lake Boosters? And maybe tell us a little bit about what the Avon Lake Boosters are.
Well, Avon Lake High School Boosters, Inc., or Avon Lake Athletic Boosters, is a nonprofit that supports the sports programs in the middle school and high school. And about 6 years ago, I took over the organization. It had a $30,000 a year budget, and when I left it, it was about a $500,000 budget, bringing in. Over the tenure of 4 years, it was $1.4 million. The thing is it's to enhance the sports. So my love for sports it's to do something that the school normally would not purchase or would not have in their budget. Extra things to make the athlete better.
Okay.
And that's really what it's all about. It's a great organization, and it's a good community involvement. If somebody wants to get involved, it's actually excellent. You get to meet people and be a part of a bigger group.
Mm. Tell us about managing the Avon Lake Beer Festival.
Well, the Bicentennial put the Beer Fest on originally, and they were looking for somebody to take it over. And I thought it would be kind of neat. It would get the adults together more, volunteers more, and because we had such a big support or big following of the parents, the athletes' parents, that we were able to get the volunteers to run the organization, to run the event, and it's a lot of work, but it's very rewarding for the community and the parents. Mm-hmm. It's a feel-good event.
What drew you to a business career?
It was kind of dropped in my lap. I was working for a lighting company, and started as a driver, and I was going to college at that time. And as a college student, it was the money to help support me going through it. And I left the company 5 years later while I was still in college, and the vendors asked me to get into the business. I got into business related to it, but not the exact business I was in, and it just evolved from there. It was a request of a vendor.
Tell us about the steps you've taken in your career. You started.
Yeah, I started the business at my kitchen table, and I've had my failures and successes. I'll tell you that. There's been ups and downs in the business. The steps were to get the sales. Sales are going to drive the business. So I get the sales, then I acquire the product. A lot of times it was, I'd get the sale, buy the product, deliver the product, and you'd collect the money, in some of it up front. But building the business, learning the accounting aspects, learning the distribution aspects, learning the operations, every facet of the business. And over time, as it grew, you get more experienced, and your failures are less and less.
Tell us about your company in Avon, Suntan Supply, right?
Yes. Well, currently we employ about 40 people. We have we manufacture millwork. So that's commercial cabinetry. We are a distributor of sunbeds, and we service them, we sell them, and we've helped set up a lot of businesses that are related to it. Fitness clubs, tanning salons, beauty salons. So we've helped build those businesses up, and over the years.
Okay. Now, how does that work? People come to you and say, I want to start a sun tanning business, and can you help me do that? Is that the way it works?
Yes, they would come to us and say, we're looking for equipment. And there's also other equipment like red light equipment and so on. But they would come to us with a request for a quote, and what we would do is help them. We'd help them with a business plan. We'd help them with site location, negotiating contracts for leasing. We would give them guidance on construction materials and the build out, and we'd actually help write the business plan for them totally, including rent, whatever it was.
Okay, so based on your experience doing this, you can relay that experience to these new folks and help them get started.
Exactly.
And create jobs.
Yes, and create jobs.
Okay. Why has your business been so successful?
Well, great employees. I've got some very long-term employees.
Basis, right?
Yeah, the great employees. Not giving up. You can't give up. When you see something you've done wrong, you learn from it, and you don't want to learn from it twice.
Okay.
So
keep rolling.
Keep rolling. Get the business going. Dedication and following through. You have to be following through with every customer. You have to make sure that they are being serviced the way they need to, because there's competition out there, and that's what helped us grow.
Mm-hmm. What best prepared you for owning and running your own business?
I would say growing up in a middle of 13 kids, and we didn't have the exposable cash in the house.
I see.
And so it was the urge to live a little bit better life. I used to get hand-me-down clothes, sometimes with holes in the knees, and I was like, I don't want to wear that to school. So I'd go out and earn money raking leaves or whatever, and people would compensate me for that. And I would buy better things for myself at that time, or to be more in the mainstream. And that was really, that's the biggest thing, was learning from that. Okay. And that gave me the guidance to move forward, and kind of the drive to push it.
Understand. What advice would you give to someone who aspires to be a business owner?
I tell them to never give up.
Okay.
Hire people around you that are smarter than you. That's a big one.
Okay.
Somebody that knows more about something than you do is better. That makes you a better employer. And keep a structure, and training. Always seek that. Always seek the newest, latest, and most innovative thing for whatever you're doing, and keep learning. You have to keep learning.
Okay. I could see a lot of slop over from coaching. You coach your employees.
Yeah, you have to coach them. I'll dig a trench with them. That's the difference.
Tell us about your past interaction with government.
Well, I was as a national distributor. We had a nonprofit association, and an individual that was on the board had sold their business, and they had sought out me to be their the replacement. It was an elected position, but I was appointed. And what they did was they said, Marty, you're going to have an easy job. We're going to give you PAC chairman. And so a couple months later, a tax was put on our industry, and they told me I would have to raise $25,000 a year. There's 25 board members. It's $1,000 a piece. And I said, okay. And I had to raise a lot more than that. It was into full steam. Then I became federal legislative chair for the industry association, and I was co-state legislative chair. So I was in D.C. lobbying all the federal legislators, and the efforts of our group led to 111 sponsors to remove a tax on our industry from the U.S. House and Senate. And then the state legislative battle started coming up, and I became the liaison between the states. I was already working with the state of Ohio on regulations, So I went around the country helping different states with legislation and testimony down in Columbus, and that's what made me fall in love with the position I'm running for.
Okay.
Doing that work.
All right. Well, that leads us right into the next question. How did you reach a decision to run for a state representative?
It was because of that, going around to going around to legislators' chambers, talking to them and educating them on my industry, the pros of our industry, and a lot of them were receptive. Some of them were partisan. And we were nonpartisan at the time, and to give them the education so that there's not unintended consequences when you make policy or legislation.
Okay.
So that was the big thing.
So it's letting them know what the facts were, and then helping them to reach a decision.
Yes. And I never failed, though. I never lost one, other than the federal died in committee. The federal sponsors to the bill, that died in committee. Every other one, we were 100% victorious.
Okay. What characteristics should voters be looking for in a candidate?
As I'm going through this, I'm learning a lot. One is experience. Do you give back to your community? That's a big thing. Are you active in your community? Are you active and understand the political system, the way it works? A lot of people confuse federal from state, and out there they're not, they'll talk about issues that are really federal related versus state issue related, and even municipal related. So understanding that, and listening to people and their ideas, what they want to see in your area or your area of expertise or whatever office you're holding. Mm-hmm. You have to listen to them, and that's a big one.
Mm-hmm. Now, you kind of answered this already. What's the best preparation for holding public office, do you think?
You have to have good shoes because you're going to wear them out. That's one. You have to walk
Good
and knock
shoes.
on doors and campaign. Campaigning is a lot of work. It's more than my volunteer work, which I didn't think it would be, but it is. And that's the biggest part. It's a lot of hard work. And reading, you have to read a lot and understand, start seeing what everything is in the public view right now,
right.
What they're concerned about.
Right.
And that's a difficult to keep up with it all. Mm-hmm. There's a lot.
What are the primary responsibilities of a representative?
Well, number one, you represent your district. Number two, it's policy, government policy. And the part that I've always seen and been part of is oversight. Where is there a mistake, or where is something need to be worked on? You could have one in your state regulations. It could be regulations, or it could be the historic site that needs to be kept alive versus or restored, or that could be oversight. So those are the three most important things with it.
Mm-hmm. What committees do you want to be on?
I'm really passionate about veterans, so Veterans Affairs, Commerce and Labor. That would be a real good one, in economic development. Economic development, I think I can do the most for.
Yeah, I think you'd be real good at that. How do representatives get assigned to committees? Is it your choice, or?
Well, it's usually a wish list. When you get elected, you would talk to leadership down there, and you give them a wish list of the committees you want to be on. And they would appoint you to whatever they feel is best for you. And so you review the list that you have.
Okay. What campaign activities have you conducted so far, and what are your future plans?
Well, the campaign activities is going to many, many functions, whether it be a ceremony with the city, or a groundbreaking, or an event, your party event, or something that recognizes a group. That's the committee, or that's the things that you attend. And right now, it's probably 4 to 5 a week. And then you have your campaigning, where you're going out knocking door to door. You have your sign. I've done sign work, putting up my signs, approving literature, approving marketing materials, coming up with letters to write people. There's many different facets of it. It's a business in itself.
coming on interview shows.
Interview shows.
Like Common Sense.
Yes.
How are you funding your campaign?
I hit my industry friends first. I did a fundraiser.
Okay.
Kind of more of a private one because I wanted to get them in there first. And then I did another fundraiser at a house, and I also put money in myself.
Okay, understand. What's your vision, if I change gears a little bit, what's your vision for dealing with the upsurge in crime that's occurring in major U.S. cities? And I don't think Ohio is left out of that group.
I think more police down the
Okay.
streets. That's number one. We need safety services there. There's no question about it. Number two, activities for people in the community. You get them active in the community, they're not going to be standing around just figuring out what they can do or,
What trouble they can
what
get
trouble
into.
they would get into. Keep them active, keep them involved. And education, that's another one, education.
Okay. What can you do to stimulate business development in Ohio when you're elected?
Take a blighted, one thing would be to take a blighted area and create an economic zone. Make sure the
Okay.
infrastructure there, make sure the roads are there. If it's highway access, what kind of business do you want to attract? Give them incentives to move there. If there's land in the land bank, give opportunity to give it to them for free, or low interest loans, grants, luring it in for possibly the labor force, educating the labor force within that region. If you take that, I mean, I've seen it where other cities have done it jointly, and they call
Right.
it a JED, Joint Economic Development Area. But take those areas and work on it, target one, and then move to the next one, and so on.
Okay. What's the first action you would take when you're elected?
Well, going around and obviously having discussions with leadership to determine what my committees are. That's
Okay.
number one, and then number two, establish the relationships with the legislators, the lobbyists, interested parties for what I'm going to do. And I'm sure there's a big bunch of stuff I've got to learn. It's going to be a lot of things.
Learning
to learn.
experience.
Yes, it will.
What do you think about Lorain County's joint vocational school and co-op programs that many companies have?
I love it. I would love to take advantage of it myself, but there's none available for me. I would love to expand it. That's one of my biggest things I want to accomplish. There's a program down in Atlanta, Georgia. It's joint junior achievement, and what they've done is take industry and they've created this almost like incubator. They have all these like banks and airlines and shipping companies and manufacturing companies go into this big group, and that group gives you an insight of what you're doing, and it's like a 2-week, anywhere from 1 to 2 week, kind of like a sample it or check it out what it is, to kind of push people into what do you want to do after high school. I would love to see a program really enhanced in a joint vocational or on its own in the district. I would love that.
Okay.
That's going to be a big push for me.
Okay. What should be done with the Avon Lake generating facility? I know very recently there was a discussion by the company that owns the site at the high school recently. Can you tell us about that?
Well, it's first of all, I would love to see 100% lakefront for the community. It's a very large property. It's very deep. There's going to have to be multi-use because they've got to get their money back out of it. One thing is I would love to see a marina there. A marina would be a great asset. And
I agree.
Create break walls to make that beach come back that we lost. There's going to be a lot of thought process in it. They're going to have to parcel it out to different types of entities. The biggest thing that we have to worry about is the winter. For economic development purposes, if you want to put restaurants in there, you're going to have something that's going to attract them there, that's going to bring people in there no matter what. I think sports-related things could do that, where there's indoor tournaments or items like that. The housing on the south side of it, not to take up the lakefront side of it, is a good opportunity. It'd probably have to be multi-unit units, and it's going to take a long time. It's going to take a lot of thought. It's going to take lots of meetings, and what they did at the meeting yesterday, which I attended, was they gave us a lot of ideas to think about.
Okay.
The organization seems like they're going to put it back on who the developers they sell it to are going to do. And hopefully, and it sounds like they want to preserve the main portion of that building, which I all along have said. I've said that building should be maintained and kept.
How would you improve the service to citizens by our state government?
Well, creating programs, like working on the power plant, working on metro parks in Sheffield Village, in Amherst, their main street, going downtown, a big valuable asset, making sure that that's full. Community-related stuff, parks and rec. You have so many beautiful things in this area. Let's enhance them. Let's create programs that keep people occupied and make this a destination, especially our beautiful lakefront. That is one thing that is underutilized in this area, and I really would like to focus on that.
I agree. What outstanding things are planned for your future?
I have a bucket list of destinations. I want to travel some more destinations other than work-related. Watching my kids grow up, I'm an empty nester now. My kids growing up and their next chapter in life, and being able to take a vacation when we want to versus when school's not in session. So that's really the stuff that I look forward to, and something with this legislature. I really want to do that.
Okay. In your opinion, as a summary, what's making sense and what doesn't?
What makes sense is Main Street, utilization of the Main Street in Amherst, Broadway in Lorraine, Metro Parks in Sheffield Village and Sheffield Lake, the lakefront, the power plant, utilizing it. What doesn't make sense is blighted areas, bad roads, property values in certain areas that are down because of all those negative things, crime. That doesn't make sense. If we try and make it better and go towards what does make sense, we'll have a much better community to live in.
Agree. What can Avon Lakers do to help your campaign? Do you need volunteers?
I do. You can't get enough volunteers.
Okay.
There's canvassing. There's obviously when I do a fundraiser, I'm going to do a general fundraiser, which will attract more community oriented people. That's providing I passed the primary election 2 weeks from yesterday.
Okay.
But they can donate online. That would be awesome. But it's an expensive thing to do.
Now, how can you be contacted? And I think the folks here will put your email address on the bottom of the screen. What is that email address that you want to use?
It's info@electmartygallagher.com.
Okay. And the website address?
Is electmartygallagher.com.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much for the time that you've spent. I did have one other question. When does human life begin?
When the egg is fertilized.
Right from the beginning. And should all human life be respected?
Always.
Okay. Well, thank you, Marty, and having the caliber of person that you are running for public office is just wonderful, and good luck with your campaign.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Okay. And thank you for watching. If you have any questions or comments, please, you have our email addresses, and you can contact us anytime. If you are an interesting person and would like to appear on the show, or know someone who is interesting, and send us their contact information. and we'll be happy to have them on this show. And remember, seatbelts save lives. Thank you.
The preceding program was presented to you by a community producer. The statements, views, and opinions expressed were not necessarily those of ALC TV or the City of Avon Lake.